Hey everyone, we're just waiting a couple minutes for everyone to join, but welcome. Excited to spend the next hour with you. So while we're waiting for everybody to join, we'd love for everybody to use the chat just to share, introduce yourself and where are you calling from, or where are you dialing in from, or where are you zooming in from, whatever the right word for it is, just to see like how broadly we're covering the country with people interested in opening a chamber of connections. So would love for people just to share as we're waiting for the rest of the crew. The gratuitous few minutes. Hollywood, love it. We're going to Hollywood, Charlotte. So fun. Davis, love it. Boise, amazing. Chicago, one of my favorites, amazing. Columbus, Ohio. I am a Wolverine, so it's a little bit harder, but I still respect you. Um, Milwaukee, amazing.
We had Burlington, Vermont, and Windsor, Ontario up there at the beginning,
I
and
love
San
Windsor. That's
Diego.
I used to go to Windsor all the time when I was at Michigan. I love Windsor. Was just talking to somebody about it the other day. And Burlington's your old neck of the woods, if I recall, Charlotte. Is that right?
Yes, I went
Right,
to college in Vermont.
right on. All right. Well, great to see everybody on. I'm going to get started. I think some more folks will be joining. And as you join, just introduce yourself on the chat and yeah, share where you're zooming in from. I think we decided was the verb. So, welcome to the next great civic movement, connection as infrastructure. This next hour is really about launching a chamber of connection in your city. We are December 1 opening up applications for folks to apply to be one of our 5 founding Chamber of Connection chapters. And this is really just an overview to see like, is that something you want to do? Or is this going to make you be like, oh my heavens, no, I do not want anything to do with that. We're hoping it's not that. But this is really a chance to be one of those 5 founding Chamber of Connection chapters. And we're going to be walking through what we're doing and what is a Chamber of Connection and why do we exist? What has Charlotte done in Seattle? And then what we're looking for in terms of the ideal founding chapters. So with that, introduce myself. I am Aaron Hurst. I am the founder and CEO of the U.S. Chamber of Connection. I am zooming in from New York City today. I'm in New York for a conference for CEO or of executives from companies around New York City that are looking at volunteering and how can we make volunteering focus more on addressing the connection crisis in America. So very excited to be here for that big event tomorrow. My background, I've been a social entrepreneur pretty much my whole career. This has been work that's deeply passionate, deep passion of mine. Combination of topics, connection, which really came a lot from my family's work early on and helping develop the Peace Corps and the Aspen Institute. It also came from my experience traveling and moving 12 times growing up and just seeing how frayed connection can be, that lived experience. It's also just I'm a total city dork. I love like urban planning. I love thinking about cities. I did a conference about 10 years ago on like what does a purpose capital city look like at the US Conference of Mayors. So I just love this stuff. I founded the US Chamber of Connection because I believe that this is our greatest challenge as a nation and that there was a leadership vacuum and that we need new infrastructure to address this challenge. And I am very pleased to be partnering in this work with the amazing Charlotte, who I'll let introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charlotte Massey. I am Aaron's co-founder for the U.S. Chamber of Connection, and I'm the executive director for the Seattle Chamber of Connection. And I've been running all of our programming on the ground here in Seattle, which is where I'm calling in from. It is very rainy here today, very typical for Seattle this time of year.
Way to represent.
My my background is in entrepreneurship. I started a venture-backed company from my dorm room in college and built that out over 7 years to solve the problem of women being able to go to the bathroom outside without removing clothing. And I love solving problems that are very clear in the world. Connection is absolutely one of them. My personal experience was moving to Seattle without a network and building one from scratch, and I ended up building myself a CRM to track my friend outreach. And it was very effective, but we need infrastructure so that it's not left to the individual to solve friendship and connection for themselves. It should be the default that we're connected rather than the exception that you have to work extremely hard in order to achieve. I also have a background in community organizing and political organizing and working with large nonprofits for marketing campaigns. So, extremely excited to be doing this work and to be working with all of you to build out programs across the country based on what we've been doing in Seattle.
And I have learned about Charlotte. She didn't tell me this when we started working together, but that she's a global debate champion, which I've now experienced firsthand. We've had many great conversations, but psyched to be working with Charlotte, and she's going to be sharing a little bit later on in the webinar, sort of what we've been doing in Seattle under Charlotte's leadership. So, want to start by just setting the stage of like what's going on in our country, and frankly in the world, honestly, right now. We are in a connection crisis. We're seeing social connection decline, social trust decline, civic engagement decline, economic mobility, resilience, mental health. Like these things are all collapsing. We're truly in a crisis of connection. This is not a side dish. This is not something that's happening sort of on the fringes. This is like the main thing going on in our country right now. We've got way too many people feeling they're lonely. We've got employees that are not sort of socially engaged. We've got majority of people don't trust each other in our country right now, and trust overall in institutions, neighbors, et cetera, is just it is again it's collapsing. Like this is all one ecosystem. This is not about a set of separate issues like civic engagement, economic mobility, social trust. These are all at the core about one thing, which is whether or not we as human beings feel a sense of social connection and the ripple effect of what that has to do biologically to us, socially to us, and to the systems that it represents. We've gotten to the point where our society has become complex and big enough, and we've got large systems that are working against social connection, but we have no system that's actually then addressing social connection in a positive way. So I think it's really important to recognize like this is really bad, full stop. Secondly, disconnection isn't inevitable. It's not like, well, society was great. I hope we had a good ride here, Charlotte. And hopefully the next planet that has humans or something like it will do a better job. Like this is a design challenge, much like we've had design challenges in our history before as a society. And cities can, and honestly, they're the only one who can solve this. This is not going to be solved at a federal level or even at a state level. This needs to be solved at a city level. But it needs to be done in coordination across cities so that it's part of something bigger. So I'm very excited to share that I think it's January 12th, we're releasing the State of Connection in America 2026, which is a national study we've undertaken to really understand the state of connection in the US and really building out a social connection index, which we're finding is performing incredibly well in terms of validating this work and how social connection is actually the root cause issue of just about everything that we care about in society as individuals, as policymakers, et cetera. In that we found, and don't tell anybody because this is not public data yet, so Charlotte, do not start talking about this at parties. 51% of adults in America score low or very low on the social connection index. So the majority of Americans do not have the social systems support for them to thrive. And the thriving is very clear in the data. And there's two opportunities we see in the data that are really interesting. What we know is that likely the best way to help people with connection is when they're in transition. And that where we need infrastructure most is in those moments of transition for people. And there are two that in the data stood out just like really, really strongly. The first is that people reporting that they're going through some major health change in their life, some health disruption to their personal health. About 22 million of them are also experiencing very low or low social connection index scores. These are people where there's a significant opportunity to specifically intervene in a specific moment in their lives where there's existing infrastructure we can build on top of. The second one, which Charlotte and I have both experienced firsthand, is that the second largest opportunity in the data was people relocating. When we relocate, as I've shared, I did it 12 times, like it's awesome and it's exciting and it totally sucks because you're losing so much of your social infrastructure. And what we found is there's just under 12 million Americans who are experiencing low levels of social connection because or is associated with them relocating. That newcomers, people moving between states, between cities inside the US, this is a very American phenomenon. We move way too much. And when we do, we basically don't take into account the impact it has on us from a social perspective. So these are two of the biggest opportunities to make a difference. At the end of the day, like connection equals city health. Like the ability for cities to thrive going forward is about connection, social connection. You look at the data, when it comes to cities, when it comes to us as a community, from safety to health to economic growth to learning, to civic engagement. Like social connection is the root of all that. It's not just like a nice side dish again. It is the root of all that. You do not get safety without social connection. You don't get health without social connection. You don't get economic growth that's sustained without it. We don't learn if we don't have social connection, and we don't engage civically if we don't have social connection. If you talk to mayors, if you talk to leaders in cities across the country, like these are the things they care about, but they're focused on the symptoms of this, not on the root cause, which is this decline in connection. So social connection is the foundational infrastructure of thriving cities today. It needs to be that infrastructure. If we don't do that, we're not going to make progress on any of these other areas in a sustained way. This is not the first time we've had a challenge like this. You might be like, oh my God, there's no way we can do anything about it. It's too damn big to fix. We have had courageous leaders throughout our history see similar or even bigger challenges and do something about it to create infrastructure to benefit everyone. One of the things we saw in the data very clearly, this is not a personal issue. What we saw in the data is this is an infrastructure issue. We tend to want to blame the individual or to say, if we just had more self-help books and more Instagram accounts with self-help tips, like the world's problems would be solved around this because people need to fix this for themselves. What we see in the data over and over again, this is not a personality issue. This is not an individual responsibility issue. While individuals do need to take proactive action, it is fundamentally an infrastructure issue. But we've done this before. We've built the highway system. We have built public education and libraries. They didn't used to exist. We said we need everyone to be educated and have access to information, and we made it happen as a society. It used to be that there was no access to public health. Like, that's crazy. There was no access to public health. Now we have a public health system. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than it was before we had one? Hell yeah. We didn't used to have parks, national, local parks. We didn't have green space. Like, what? No Yosemite? Like, that's insane. We created these things. We created these systems as infrastructure to address challenges before. And we're now facing the next major challenge for us as a society, which is we need infrastructure now for social connection, or else we're going to see the continuing collapse of society. And that's really the vision behind the U.S. Chamber of Connection, that one day soon, every city and town, I know you're from a town, Charlotte, so that's important, will have a civic institution to build and sustain the infrastructure for social connection and trust, a chamber of connection. We believe that going forward, just like we have schools, just like we have libraries, just like we have highways, there needs to be a chamber of connection in every city and town that is taking responsibility for building the infrastructure, maintaining the infrastructure, growing the infrastructure, advocating for the infrastructure needed for people to be able to thrive. So what does that look like for a city? What we're looking at in terms of growing this as a movement, as a model, is building this infrastructure, is that these local chambers of connection will be locally owned, but supported by a national framework that enables success in learning. We don't believe just every great organization doing social connection work in every city, like that's not going to ever add up to what's needed. We need to be a network of organizations that are taking this on together, that are building political force together, that are accelerating our learning. Like, Charlotte and I have a lot of good ideas. We've learned a lot from a lot of people. Most of what we're doing is probably not the stuff that 10 years from now we'll find is the most effective stuff. It's going to come from this network doing crazy shit. And I use that word intentionally. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy shit that people are going to try. A lot of it's Charlotte and I'll be like, what are you thinking? That's a terrible idea. And it's going to be better than anything we're doing. Like, we need that kind of innovation happening. But we need a framework, a way of doing that. And these are the three elements that are at the core of what a chamber of connection is. The first is civic ownership. A local chamber of connection needs to be founded by local civic leaders across sectors, not just nonprofit, not just business, not just academic. It has to be truly a cross-sector leadership. The second is it needs to focus first and foremost on welcoming newcomers. This is massive opportunity, as we saw in the data, but it's also the thing that rallies everyone together to actually find that catalyst to start. And then we need to all embrace within the chambers of connection the 6 points of connection, which is a clear framework with validated measurements that are not just academic, but are actually actionable, that enable, as a mayor, as a CEO, as a head of a university, as a community builder, to know what matters and whether or not things are working. So what does that look like? Let's talk about that first step, how we start. So imagine yourself in your city. We'll pick on Boise, since I saw someone from Boise was here. So you're in Boise and you're like, want to get one started. So the first thing to do is to invite. You need to be able to get the mayor or the county executive involved. You need to be able to get the top employers, because employers are another major part of this, because changing jobs is a major part of the equation, but also corporate volunteering, et cetera, are key parts of how we solve for this. We need to bring in field builders. You need to get your local foundations, your academics, your healthcare organizations to the table. as well as community organizations, arts, faith, sports, education, nonprofit, et cetera. You need to be able to build a table that's got the right people around it that decide, do we give a damn about connection? Do we want to do something about it? Or are we okay with the status quo of where we're going? So you need to bring them together and they need to commit. They need to sign a charter saying, we as a group are taking responsibility for this. This is not a 1-year campaign. It is not a 5-year campaign. This is a 100, 200, 300-year campaign that is sustained as we and our future leaders that join this, as we continue on our journeys, are going to own this going forward. That's the first step. How do you launch them? That's how you start. That table got together. They're like, yes, we care. Yes, we're going to own it. Yes, we are going to do something about this. The second is, how do we then launch it? Because what I found in Seattle was if you just say we're going to work on connection, everyone's like, that sounds important, but like, what am I supposed to do about it? When we said, let's focus on making sure Seattle is the most welcoming city in America, suddenly everyone raised their hand. Everyone wanted to get involved because business wanted them as customers. Employers wanted to make sure their new employees were happy. Mayors want their votes. Arts organizations want their donations and their volunteering. Like everyone cares about newcomers. And it's a time we know the science says we can make a huge difference. So building out a newcomer program. Charlotte and I have built some awesome stuff in Seattle. We have that available, but your Chamber of Connection can use that, not use that. That's not the point. We're there to support you. It's about designing what works for your place based on the next part, which is the 6 points of connection. What we have found, and we've now validated, is that there really are 6 things that we need to thrive as people. So for Charlotte to thrive, she needs these 6 things. And someday when we have more time, she can explain how she does all 6. It's remarkable. But also for Charlotte to live in a neighborhood in a city that's thriving, these things also need to be the case. So it's not just about personal thriving. They're really about the infrastructure for the individual and the community to thrive. And they range from what enables safety to what enables us to bond with people like ourselves, and how do we help bridge the difference? So first point is having a neighbor contact. Second, like being part of a community of identity, people who share a lot in common with you. The third one, which is the lowest we found in the research, is having at least 2 meaningful one-on-one social interactions per week. 4, a third place outside of work and home. That's critical to sustained connection. 5, being a member of a community of play or activity. Being able to be part of something like that is critical to bridging. And the 6th is being involved in volunteer work to serve the broader community. So all 6 of these are needed if we're going to sustain connection. This is the infrastructure we need to build, is to help people get there. And how do we do that? We don't just flip a switch and like, hey, like Charlotte, you got that one, check, you're done. Like this is a very deliberate process using change management. So we need to go from people being aware that they know what connection they need to thrive, to having a desire, like I want to build that connection, to I know how to build it, to I have what I need to build it, to I can sustain it. And you can imagine the infrastructure needed under each of these. Like what does it take to make people aware? What does it take to make people desire? What does it take to build the knowledge, the ability to reinforce? Like this is the infrastructure of social connection as we design this together. So now you've got your table of amazing leaders together. You've launched, you're starting to use the 6 points of connection. From that point forward, really that table of leaders are going to grow your impact. So you're going to look at your 6 points of connection and say, you know what, we've got a real problem in this part of the city with third places. Let's develop a fund with all the key banks to do small grants for small business to help them modify small businesses to make them more effective as third places. Or let's figure out how to use libraries better to do that. Or maybe you find in certain neighborhoods that you're just not seeing that people are finding that neighborhood contact. Okay, how do we do campaigns around that? It's that ability to, on a continuous basis, look for opportunities and challenges and to rally every leader in the city to address that challenge. So then what does it look like at maturity? Like what would this look like at maturity, 3, 5, 7 years down in Boise, right? The answer is colorful. I mean, look at all these colors. It's going to be like the most colorful, beautiful thing. So this is what it looks like as a broader model. On our left, we have the 6 points of connection. This is the foundation for everything we do. All of it like we do is to measure and improve these things. That's our boss, if you will. It then goes that you have that cross-sector leadership table that's accountable for measuring and coordinating efforts across the city. You have the anchor institutions, government, employers, education, large nonprofits, sports, faith, like all these big organizations that are huge influencers of people and who need to host a lot of the infrastructure. Then you have community groups, social clubs, different types of faith groups, neighborhood associations, volunteer groups. You have that community activation level. And then ultimately, if this is going to work, we're going to need a block leader on every block in every city and town who is a volunteer who is working to actually do the micro activation in their neighborhood on their street. And then you look at it in terms of specific campaigns then. So we said we start off with newcomers. That's what the data shows. Then maybe in your city, you say, you know what, next, we want to help the youth. We want to make impact in the education. We want to teach kids about how to build social connection. We want to teach them about the 6 points. We want them to model it inside their schools. Then maybe you're like, you know what, kids have got it. We're good. Let's go for the seniors and retirees because that's another population that really needs it. And then maybe you're like, oh, all these people that are having health issues that are going through challenges around health, we want to address them next. So we're going to really deep dive with all the medical and health and well-being community to like integrate social connection deeply into the work they're doing and make sure everyone that touches the healthcare system sees the 6 points of connection is helped to support in those. So you can see how over those 3, 5, 7, 10 years, as a leadership group, you're identifying populations and applying full stack support to adopt the 6 points of connection. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Charlotte. And just Charlotte, let me know when you want me to advance the slides. Let's do like a little dance or whatever, and I will carry it on. But excited for you to share what nonsense we've been up to in Seattle.
Yes, absolutely. And I apologize, I'm getting over a cold, so hopefully my voice holds out for us.
You sound great.
For for our Seattle pilot in 2025, we have managed to build quite a lot within 1 year. So we started by building out our brand and our social and our website to create the identity of the Seattle Chamber of Connection. And the Seattle Chamber of Connection has a different identity from the U.S. Chamber of Connection, so it's distinct as a city-based organization. We, as Erin said, also started by convening a welcome committee of 45 members across the city, so leaders in corporate, in nonprofit, in government, and bringing them together and activating them around a shared goal of creating connection and around really having Seattle be a leader in connection in the country. Seattle has a reputation for the Seattle freeze and being unfriendly and difficult to make connections within. And we wanted to shift this narrative because narrative change can be extremely powerful. When we have a negative narrative, we sometimes live into that
Yep.
reputation. And so we've rebranded the Seattle Freeze as the Seattle Bear Hug with our bear mascot, who is a delightful inflatable bear named Sam. And we did pop-ups around the city and brought Sam to all of our events. And we were also able to leverage the delightful hugs that Sam the Bear gives out for garnering additional media attention. We had a very successful media launch in Seattle, working with nearly every major publication and a news outlet across the city to really build this campaign around welcoming newcomers, which was very compelling for all of the outlets to share about. We had an extremely successful volunteer campaign. We had over 150 total volunteers and 50 extremely engaged volunteers supporting with events and also with the building of core infrastructure and the extension of programs that we would not have been able to build out without those partnerships in place. We really are a volunteer first organization. For our programming, we hosted 6 official Seattle Welcome Days, which is in partnership with the mayor's office. And those are focused on welcoming newcomers and providing support around the 6 points of connection so they can build their plan for what a connected life in the city looks like to them. And we also built programming around supporting people who are already building connection. So we focused on community builders who are building out organizations in the startup incubation phase. So think run clubs, dancing groups, cold plunge groups. There's a group that gathers to scream into the void together. Basically, anything that you can gather around, someone is gathering people around it. And we brought all of those people together, over 130 different community builders across the city, to support each other and make sure that they don't burn out and that they're able to have the resources they need because there's very common barriers that community builders run into around permitting, around whether they should set up bank accounts, whether they should be a nonprofit or LLC, how to advertise, and we're able to bring in experts to address those barriers so that they're able to continue running their organizations and also help them with succession planning and with bringing on volunteers. So last week we were able to bring an official from the Seattle Department of Parks and Recreation in to talk about permitting and answer questions. And that's an example of the type of ways that building this coalition is able to bring everyone up together and support the grassroots organizing that's happening as well. And then we also have partnered with institutions like the Seattle Kraken, which is our NHL team, to host the nation's first newcomer game. So we were able to host a reception in partnership with Alaska Airlines for newcomers. We had over 1,000 newcomers buy tickets and come and then sit together in the arena. So they're able to experience their new team, feel welcomed in, and identify each other so that they can build those relationships with other people who are open to connection. And we're going to be using that model with additional sports teams and also with additional events. So we're partnering with the Pacific Northwest Ballet on a similar event next month. And we can go to the next slide now, Aaron.
I don't get a dance move. All right.
We also have established a TV program, Ask Dr. Nancy. Nancy Connolly is our executive director for community health and well-being at the U.S. Chamber of Connection, and she has an ongoing segment on Seattle's local morning show focused on social prescribing, so answering questions from the community around how to build connection from a health perspective. And that reaches thousands of people every month when she does the segment. So we're very excited with the media integration that we've been able to do and the ways that we can support people on the ground with programming, but also through education around social prescribing and also around the 6 points of connection, which we featured on the segment as well.
No, and it's so exciting because she's such a leader locally with in the medical community around connection. And just as we talked about earlier, just the fact that we're seeing so many people who are experiencing health distress and issues with their health, to be able to have her there has been such a gift to be able to both do this TV show, but also just to be starting to educate the healthcare community about the need for this. So we love Dr. Nancy. So.
For programming, we piloted 6 Welcome Days this year, which is our programming supporting people who are new to the city. And the programming goes through the 6 points of connection. We have a workbook that facilitates peer coaching, and everyone builds their plan for what a connected life looks like in the city.
I want to build on that really quickly, Shai. One of the things we've seen in the data from the to be released report is that one of the biggest barriers people said to connection was they didn't know what to do. And I think that's
Mhm.
part of why we're seeing people loving this process of actually doing the 6 points of connection, be like, oh, that's what you're talking about. And like talking to other people and designing it together, it gives them a vision for what they're trying to do around connection, which has been one of the biggest gaps because we just generally say like, hey, go have friends or go get involved. But like we're actually giving them a roadmap, which is we're seeing in the data a big unlock.
Yeah, it's an actionable checklist of what a connected life looks like, so you know where to start. Whereas just have friends is not very
Thanks a lot.
actionable, even if you know that it's something that you would like or that you need to do. We got very strong positive feedback from our pilot of Welcome Days. We had a Net Promoter Score of 71. And then we collected significant feedback in interviews and one-on-one feedback sessions, as well as listening sessions with participants and with facilitators. Some of my favorites I pulled here, but we really did create a space where people were able to think about what they want their life to look like and where they felt like they could actually make that happen in a way that's really hard to do when you're not in community with others who are going through the same challenges. And hearing from other newcomers from stage who had gone through the same experience and come out the other side with a connected life was really powerful for participants to know that there is hope and there's a plan that they just created that they can follow to have that be their reality as well.
And I think it's, again, being a research nerd, one of the things I love is that one of the things that really causes people to struggle with connection is when they don't feel committed to the place. If you
Hmm.
have like one foot out the door, then you never really get grounded. Just even psychologically, even if you're going through all the motions, you don't actually engage the same way. And one of the things I've really loved about Welcome Day is it's actually caused people to say, like, I am a Seattleite now.
Hmm.
And when I was doing research before we opened, like one of the things I heard from people is like, I've been here 7 years and I don't think I can call myself a Seattleite, or I've been here 20 years and I still don't think of myself that way. Creating permission and helping people take ownership of that label, it seems small, but it's actually a really big deal psychologically. So I love that first quote around that piece. And also the idea of mutual aid, which you can see in the last quote, like
Hmm.
they're not alone. I think you underscored that really brilliantly.
And as part of Welcome Day, we have everyone recite together their pledge to be a Seattleite. And, sometimes it's a little bit culty, but there's
It's
real
not.
psychology behind it. And it's very powerful to give people permission to be Seattleites and to identify that way and to really commit to the city rather than seeing every failure to connect in as a sign that maybe they should move to a different city rather than just a normal barrier on the path to the connected life that they can have here in the city.
Yep.
For our Welcome Day pilots, 57% of attendees had arrived within the last 3 years. So we certainly saw people who were not newcomers attending Welcome Days. Many of these people were going through life transitions that put them into a newcomer mindset. We also saw significant volunteers who were interested in building connection personally as well. So, certainly the problem extends beyond newcomers, and there's lots of disconnection outside of the newcomer community. But gearing programming towards newcomers is a really powerful way of activating support because there's a lot of stigma against identifying as lonely, and it's hard to self-identify that you are disconnected. But when you're new, of course you are. That's
Yep.
inherent to to physically moving. You're not going to know your neighbors or have close one-on-one connections within a city that you haven't been living in. And so that framing is really powerful in getting people in the room. And then the programming is supportive no matter what is causing your disconnection or your desire to build your action plan for a connected life. As far as what brought people to the room, we saw 71% were lacking companionship, 66% were feeling left out, and 66% were feeling isolated. So you can see that um, those were the factors driving people to the space, and then the programming is able to support everyone.
And part of what I love about this, Charlotte, is it's about the people who are coming, but I'm also hearing from people who maybe saw marketing on this or like met someone who learned about the program and they aren't newcomers, but they're like, oh, like I need to be better at working on social connection in my own life, but also being better to newcomers. That when someone
Hmm.
comes to my block, like I really should take action. So I love that, like at the Kraken game, like yes, we had 1,000 newcomers out of 18,000 people or whatever it is, but those other 17,000 are seeing the message of social connection matters and let's change how we think about newcomers and help them thrive, especially in like a hockey game where the entire hockey team are newcomers. So it's like such a
Hmm.
clear message around if we want to succeed, hockey team, culture, economy, whatever, like we have to approach this differently.
Yeah, absolutely. We can all make an impact in the social connection of our city. And we also all have room to improve with our social connection. Our volunteers who come to Welcome Days, even if they're not newcomers or even if they're not necessarily intentionally looking to do the programming, we make all of them do the programming. And even if you've lived in the city for 20 years and feel like you are pretty connected, there's still room to improve. And I do the workshop every time as well, and I always see areas where I could improve or new ways that I could deepen my connection with my neighbors or with friends. And the great thing about connection is that it always benefits others as well as yourself by definition, because you are connecting with at least one other person who will then have a more connected life as well. So tracking our impact using the ADKAR framework, we had 74% of people leaving our Welcome Day pilots knowing what connection they need in order to thrive. So we had success with them understanding the 6 points and knowing that that is what a thriving life looks like for them in the city, and also a strong desire to follow through and
Yep.
to build what they had planned out for themselves for their connected life. We had a drop off for knowledgeability and reinforcement. So we're which makes sense because those are harder to get to after one day of programming. And so we're building in ways for people who have gone through Welcome Day to stay involved, and to come back and reinforce in community rather than needing to do that alone, which I think is really important.
And look how happy people are when they're reinforced at the end of it. I mean, that guy is so freaking happy. It's kind of insane. A lovely little AI guy. But yeah, I think that's exactly right. And the last three stages, like it's different programming needed for different pieces of this. Like there's no one thing that solves for all of it. I think Welcome Day is building awareness and desire. It's giving them some people to help reinforce because they can be part of a community, starting to build knowledge and ability. But that's, those things don't happen just because of one event, like you said, Charlotte.
And then for the ways that we keep people involved, we have an online community that everyone is onboarded into as part of participating in Welcome Day, where we have additional activities and we partner with different community organizations and community builders around the city so that people immediately can be part of an ecosystem of fun events and ways to stay involved with each other. And so we saw really strong follow through for people wanting to continue staying involved through signing up for activities, following up with people who they had met at Welcome Day, and engaging in Halo, which is the online community that we use. We were also very excited to see the desire for connection through bridging, especially people were planning to connect with someone different from themselves coming through Welcome Day. And something that's really powerful and special about Welcome Day is that it's not targeted based around a narrow identity, or um, one subsection of society. The cross section of being new hits every different demographic. And what we saw from our demographic data of who is coming to our pilots is that it was pretty similar to the demographic data of the city of Seattle. And so newcomers are really a cross section of the whole city and a great opportunity for creating bridging relationships where people can connect with others who are different from themselves, who they might not otherwise ever connect with. But those connections are really powerful for the social impact of reconnecting a city. For what we're doing next, now that we've come out of our pilot year in 2025 in Seattle, we're focusing on our connection ecosystem. So making sure that we're creating those connection points between the work that is already happening, and connecting local businesses, nonprofits, and community groups so that they can support each other and we can have a really robust connection ecosystem for newcomers and people who are looking for connection to tap into. So we're continuing our Welcome Day events, but we're focusing them around interest areas that are open and accessible. The idea is you can come to multiple, and then we bring in those community organizations to the event itself. So coming out of the event, you have already signed up to participate in events and communities that you're interested in directly from the event itself. We also have been
Just quickly on
working
that one.
on.
The other thing I think has been really cool, just seeing like as you pilot a little bit of that, is just when people come knowing there's people interested in the same types of things, it's
Mhm.
really increased their desire to like make plans with people in the room because they know they share a love of health and well-being, or they share a love of food and beverage or arts and culture. Like it's just been great at just accelerating and creating psychological safety for people to, hey, ask like, hey, want to go and hang out sometime?
Definitely. It feels like this event is for me, and the people here are people who I could do something with, and it's a much faster timeline of figuring out what you could do with the other people who are there in the room, but still keeping the interest areas broad enough that pretty much everyone could relate into something that is happening at the event. We're also piloting our Best Day Ever events, which is in partnership with the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods. And those are full day activations with 50 people where they're not just going to learn about this explosive connection, but really put them into practice. So they're going to do some amount of volunteering, they're going to do community-based um, play around interests, and they're going to deeply explore neighborhoods across the city. And by spending a whole day together doing multiple different activities, will get people to the point where they feel like they've interacted enough to exchange numbers and hang out again if they have had that compatibility. So
And
that program is going to launch in March of next year, and the RFP in Seattle is launching next month.
one of the things I love about this one is just it's getting people together for a longer period of time. It's experiential instead of just like a workbook talk conversation. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's also going to really help small businesses. It's going to help local nonprofits, community groups in those different neighborhoods um, be able to be exposed to more and more people. So it's like really an economic development, a civic development program at the same time as it is a connection program.
Absolutely. And it will be a lot of fun. So
And the best day ever, someone might say.
we're incorporating all of the things that are good for you into a really fun day with a bunch of new people. So, very excited for that program to launch. We are also continuing to build out our online community, which we host through Halo, which is one of our partners. We are working on club fairs that will launch in 2026, where our 130 community builders and our partner organizations across the city will be able to come and share all the amazing opportunities for Seattleites to get involved. And we're partnering with the National Nordic Museum on our first club fair. And then we're going to be hosting more newcomer games, hopefully both with the Seattle Kraken and with additional teams and organizations around the city.
Yeah, I love it. It's building those ecosystems that are necessary, the infrastructure.
We are also building out the capacity for connection, so providing training and resources so that there are more opportunities for people to join thriving communities. We are continuing to train our community builders and bring in experts and bring in resources around the barriers that they're facing in real time. We are also going to be starting third place trainings, so supporting local businesses and what it looks like to be a third place and connecting them with community builders who are looking for places to activate to create that synergy so that we can really have thriving third places across the city and hopefully also supporting with grant funding to be able to make that happen. We're partnering with museums around the city to activate them as third spaces as well. Museums are looking for ways to bring in new members, especially young people, and we have community builders who are engaging many hundreds of thousands of people across the city who are looking for community. So there's a really clear synergy there. And then bringing our 6 points trainings into different organizations because, as we shared, they're extremely helpful for newcomers, but they're also helpful for anyone. And they're a really powerful measurement tool that we need to integrate across the city in order to see where we really are with connection.
One
So
quick
we're
point
going to be working.
on that one. I think one of the things we saw in the research was like for certain populations, like we need to go to them instead of have them come to us. And that's part of
Mhm.
why I love this work with community centers, this idea of like, how do we bring this and embed it in every neighborhood and just remove any friction so that people who may have some hesitance to get involved, like make it really easy and comfortable for them to do this work.
Yeah, absolutely. So bringing it to community centers, to employers, and also to city policymakers and to healthcare workers. So we can educate and embed the 6 points into all of the populations who are making decisions around connection, and also embedding the 6 points into any research that is happening so that we're able to have one metric that can be tracked across the city.
It will go down. There we go.
And then we're also working on reconnecting volunteering. So, volunteering is one of the 6 points of connection, and there's a huge opportunity for a volunteering to be a point of connection in a way that we've lost a little bit with a lot of volunteering moving online or being more focused on individual action behind a computer. So, we're working with Gadara, which is a national leader in corporate volunteering on integrating connection into their volunteer activations. And through that, we're going to be building out block leader programs where people can take ownership of their block and the connection across their part of their city. We're also going to be supporting with social club incubation. So, not just supporting people who have already built clubs, but people who want to build clubs and helping them get started. And then also empowering people to lead connection conversations, which is something that we've already been doing through welcome days and also through some of our online programming, but setting people up to lead deep conversations around the 6 points of connection with others who they have some kind of connection with so that they're able to get that peer coaching experience and build their own little plans around how they're going to embed connection into their lives.
That's been so powerful just to see people reach out to people that maybe it's their parent, maybe it's their kid, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's someone they barely know, and to say, hey, like I'm thinking about third places, like as part of this program with the Chamber of Connection, and would love to talk to you about my experience and your experience. Like, would you be willing to talk about it? And it's like supportive of both of them, and it actually strengthens the relationship. So it's kind of like a triple whammy as a model.
And then we're also focused on neighborhood-based activation. So we need infrastructure at a city level, but we also need that micro level neighborhood-based programming. So that's why our best day ever events are very neighborhood focused. And then we also have neighborhood-based activations around block parties. So rebranding block parties as a volunteer experience, which of course they are. You're doing something that gives back to everyone around you in a really meaningful way. And we've seen how block parties can build out connection and be that starting point of having an email list of the people in your block and being the spark needed to create new levels of connection around the people who live near you. Taking that to the next level with our block leader program, where you can host block parties, but also make sure that there's other points of connection as well. And then also connection dinners. So bringing people together over a meal to connect with each other and have conversations that get at the 6 points of connection in a really meaningful way while developing those relationships in real time.
I like how there's some innovation here, like Charlie, you designed Best Day Ever, which is amazing. But a lot of these things are just things that have been tried and true things that have worked for 50, 60, 100 years, or cool people are doing all around the country. It's bringing it under an infrastructure so that the sum of the parts is greater than any one piece of it. That's been the biggest piece that we see missing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for thinking about building your Chamber of Connection, the way that we have built the Seattle Chamber of Connection and learning from what we have learned over the last year, starting in year one, you would look at developing your citywide ownership committee and really getting support for connection as a cause and as an area that needs meaningful infrastructure. It's not just a nice to have program that could be integrated into a couple other things that are happening. It needs to be its own area of support. And then piloting programming around the 6 points of connection, which could look like welcome days, or it could look like something different depending on what is missing in your city. In year two, integrating the 6 points into existing programs. So, how can you work with the Parks Department to make sure that every community center is running 6 points programming, or working with universities or schools in your community to integrate programming in? Diversifying programming so that whatever population you begin targeting, you are able to expand and make sure that everyone has access to connection and to the programming that you're offering. And then focusing on measurement. So, not just the measurement of the impact of the programs, but getting a baseline understanding of where the city is as far as the level of connection.
Yeah,
And then
connection.
in year three, expanding programming to be city or county wide and integrating the programming into long-term city planning. Because what we're going for here is civic infrastructure that will be lasting and that isn't dependent on just that year's support or that year's funding, but that is going to be essential infrastructure the same way that public education is or that roads are.
Yeah, exactly. So before I do that, just wow, I don't know if you can hear the siren, Charlotte. Apparently, they're very excited around here in New York about this. Um, So incredible work that Charlotte's done. I hope you all sort of are as amazed as I am. Like that's 12 months of work. Charlotte started about 12 months ago. So just thinking about all of that and just the power of what one amazing person can do to really like truly do something that's impacting already, I think, tens and hundreds of thousands of lives. So Charlotte, it's been amazing partnering with you.
Of course.
Of course it is. Nice, Charlotte. I like it. So you're
Of
debating.
course, I was excited to do it.
So, moving towards the sort of the latter part of our conversation here. So, every city is different, but they all in our data show they have the exact same challenges. Like we saw no regional differences in any of the 6 points of connection index, which I thought was really interesting. This is truly an infrastructure issue. Um, as your national partner, what we're going to be able to provide if you're one of these first five founding chapters is several things: the branding, messaging, and research to get off the ground. We'll give you proven frameworks, playbooks, measurement tools, tech, curriculum, and training. So you'll have a lot of the resources. Take a lot of what we've done already and learn from that and accelerate what you're doing. We're going to be national partnerships and campaigns to accelerate your success. So, like I'm in New York right now. We're going to be meeting with 100 companies that have staff in every city that people in this call are in. And when we can activate those companies, we can activate them in your city as well as everyone else's. Or we're doing work with museums, we're activating that across the country. Or we're trying to even just do like policy changes, like what counts as volunteering, or how should permits work. Like we can do that at a national level and help accelerate what happens in your neck of the woods. Or you come up with something that could be national. We can help take what you've done and make that national so it helps everybody else. We will also make shared services available. So if you need help with event support or marketing or design or volunteer program management, like we can do staff augmentation to help you with that. And the part I like the most is we'll start getting together regularly. We will, across these founding chapters, the 5 plus Seattle as a starting place, we'll be getting together virtually and then in person to really learn from each other and advance this work together and help as a group select which are the next 5 and 10 and 15 and 50 chambers of connection. So you become part of a national network, a founding member of this group of people who are infrastructure builders in cities and towns across the country. We're looking for 5 founding cities. And by city, talking about like a city of 100,000 plus people. So actually, like, love New York. New York's probably not the right sort of initial size for a city. I think we're looking for cities, Seattle size-ish or smaller, who will be good as founding partners for this. A place where there is a person who can run it, a Charlotte Massey, if you will, who's a builder, has a cross-sector network and deep local roots. A mayor who is forward-looking and people-oriented and like really wants to be part of this historic movement. That you've got funding. You've got sort of initial funding, whether that's from the city, whether that's from local businesses, foundations, individuals, but you can sort of get that initial funding for your team, but then also have a vision for how you're going to make this sustainable longer term financially. And purple. And that's not because University of Washington is purple, because I'm not a Husky, but that would be a good reason for it. We really want cities where we can show that this is something that can bring red and blue together to make purple. We really want, a diversity of cities and cities in different parts of the country that have, different populations politically, so that we can start to actually not make this about one party or one political point of view, but actually have connection be the thing that brings us together. So again, we're looking for 5. You can see some examples our designer did. Like if you were to say Miami or Portland or Bar Harbor or Tucson, like we'll help you develop the visual brand for it so that you can quickly accelerate and sort of be part of that community. So what we recommend as a next step on your end is to convene your city's founding table. Like this is really that very first step, which is bringing the right people to the table to see if they're willing to commit to doing this. If you don't have that leadership support in your city, like this may be lovely for a year or two, but it's not going to be sustained. Like you need that kind of executive leadership across sectors. So recommend you identify the convener, like who's actually going to host the table. Is it going to be your mayor? Is it going to be the local community foundation? Is there a regional catalyst? Someone who can has enough clout to pull the right people to the table and set the table. Then inviting 8 to 12 cross-sector leaders to join you for that conversation. And then co-create that civic commitment to say, yes, we are in, we want to be one of these first 5 founding chambers of connection in America. So we started this year with the Seattle pilot, Go Charlotte. 2026 is going to be about founding chapters launched. We're going to have 5 initial founding chapters. 2027, we really want to strengthen and build on the learning network and shared metrics. We'll have some of that in 26, but it'll really start to get much more mature in 27. By 2030, we want to have at least 50 chapters across the country. And by 2035, we want connection universally seen as infrastructure. The same way public health is or public schools are, that 10 years from now, this is something that we just sort of assume as part of city plans, as part of what it means to be in a modern city, modern town. So are you ready to do this? We wanted to put together a little readiness checklist. So we're releasing applications December 1st. Those will be on our website, and we'll send out an email to everyone when that's up. But the key questions you should really be looking at are, do you have the convener? Like, is there the mayor's office, the community foundation, someone who can bring the people? Do you know which leaders need to be engaged? Who would needed to be successful at the table? Have you invited your leaders to the table? And we can help you there with your invites and the agenda. And do you have a funding plan? Like, how are you looking to fund your initial team? The person to lead it, the head of programs, whatever your budget looks like for the scale in which you want to start. Um, we are going to be investing in you, but also there is a need to help cover the costs of what we're going to be doing to supporting you. So we will be having an investment of 50K to get a Chamber of Connection up and running. This will cover, a lot of our time spent on the branding, spending on training, spending on the capacity building. For the first five, we're waiving that 50K because we know that you're going to be learning alongside us. We've done Seattle, we haven't done the next set, and we know that there's going to be a lot of learning together. So the first five are going to be able to basically in kind pay the 50K to us in supporting the development of like how do we support cities. After that, there'll be a 10K annual membership or roughly 10% of your annual budget for your Chamber of Connection, which is going to go to cover all the shared services and the convenings that we'll provide for you as an organization. And then we will have additional services so that if you wanted to, hire out one of our teams to be able to augment for events or marketing or branding, like we can help augment that so that you can have that flexibility and have low cost ways of building it out. So that comes to the end of our presentation. Again, December 1st, we will be putting out that application process. I also want to let you know about some upcoming webinars that we have for those of you that want to dig in deeper. We've got one coming up later this week with Gadara about the connection crisis, which is really about how can we change the nature of volunteering in America to address what's about a $500 billion shortfall in community service needed to address the challenge. Early next month, we're going to be doing a webinar with the Seattle Kraken on how to use the power of sports to build connection. And then on January 12th, we'll be releasing the first annual State of Connection in America, which I'll be presenting the findings from our study. So excited to have you join us for those various webinars. So just in closing, just want to challenge you all to think about, like, do you want to be the person who makes this change happen in your city, in your town? Do you want to be able to build that institution that your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren look back to and say, hey, my grandma, my grandfather created that organization that is like a core part of what enables our city to be the city it is today that we just take for granted now, 50, 100 years later. And do you want to be the one to bring the key leaders of your city together around the table to say, you know what, connection matters, and we are going to do something about it. We're going to be a founding chapter of this movement to change what it means to thrive. And I just want to again thank my amazing co-founder, Charlotte, for all that she's done, jumping on this journey with me early on, figuring out. We've failed a lot. We've succeeded a lot. We've learned a lot. Like this year has been truly amazing, and I can't imagine a better partner in crime to do it with. So just very grateful for our collaboration. And excited to share that Charlotte and I are going to be doing a podcast starting next year to like really follow this work so that everyone can track and learn about all the amazing work going across the country and all the community builders out there. So with that, just again, thank you all. Charlotte, any closing words on your end? Not to put you on the spot, but I love
Yeah,
doing
well,
it.
thank you everyone for being in this webinar and wanting to build connection infrastructure in your city. I really encourage you to think deeply about starting Chambers of Connection in your city. It's so powerful, and I think the brand of a Chamber of Connection is so powerful too, just from a narrative shift. Um, we need to be organizing around connection, and we've had chambers focused on commerce, and now we can refocus to building around people. So I'm so excited to have cities across the country launching that we can learn from in Seattle and that
Yeah.
we can support with programming. And like Erin said, there's so much to learn. And if building a chamber isn't the right fit for you, there's so much else you can do on a neighborhood level or on an individual level, and it's going to take all of us.
Amen. And assuming we press the right buttons, this was recorded, so you can watch it over and over and over again because it was that great. Or more realistically, you can share it with others in your city who may want to learn about, what this would look like. And with that, everyone, I look forward to continuing the conversations and thank you for being part of this movement.